are now recording here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So first of all, Monica of my team and JCPS, welcome to my Ring Central training session here. As you see on the screen, my name is Eric Collins, and I'm going to be giving you a training session on how to, oops, see if it moves it over, on how to operate the physical phones as well as the application. As you're already aware of, if you have a ShoreTel phone or a MyTel phone, we're going to be in the process of transitioning those phones over and switching them out with new physical Polycom phones here. Some of you may be getting the 250 or the 350. We'll be talking about the difference between the two, and then after which I'll be showing you a little bit on how the phone works as well as diving into the application here. So Monica, if you have any questions during the time, just let me know either by sending a text or by just giving a shout out, and then we'll get them answered and move on. Does that sound good?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yep, not a problem there. So let's first talk about the phone layout for the VVX 250 here. So over on the left-hand side, you have the line keys. So think of these line keys as your phone call, line 1, line 2, moving the way down here. So that's how that one works. On the bottom set, you have these soft keys. Now, these are going to change depending on what you're doing with the phone here. So as you are doing nothing, you're going to have different options such as directory and forwarding, while if you're on a phone call, those soft keys will change to different options such as hold, transfer, and things of that sort. And we'll be talking about how that works here. You have the back key, which basically allows you to move back on the menu if you're navigating through the phone configurations. Transfer allows you to transfer calls. We'll get into that just a little bit later here. And then hold places the call on hold. So if it's an external caller, they'll be able to hear hold music there. Moving down the way, you also have the volume key. So this adjusts the volume of the actual call, or if you're not doing anything with the phone, it'll adjust the volume of the ringer. Moving in the center here, we have the navigation pad, which allows you to navigate through the different configurations of the phone itself there. And then the home key will bring up the actual menu system, or if you press it again, it'll take you back to the home screen. Dial pad in the center is basically your dial pad, so you could call out. And then headset allows you to move calls or answer the call using the headset. And speakerphone does the same thing, moves the call over to the speakerphone. Mute mutes the active calls microphone, whether it's headset, speakerphone, or the actual handset. And these three buttons there will light up accordingly there. So the mute button will go red, the speakerphone and the headset button will go green when they're active. Now, the layout of the VVX 350 is almost the same. You'll notice on there that it actually has a few things, 2 additional line key buttons, as well as a voicemail button. So the VVX 250 doesn't have a voicemail button, but does have a soft key, and then to access the voicemail, as well as being able to dial *86 to access the voicemail as well. All right, so let's talk about making those outbound calls. So in the MyTel system, usually you had to dial like a 9 or a 1 and then the 10-digit phone number. In this scenario here, you won't have to do that. All you have to do is dial the 10-digit phone number, and then you'll be able to call out. Or if you're dialing an extension, that's still the same as it is there. You could dial the 4-digit extension if you are within the same building, or if you are dialing somebody that's outside of the building, another facility, then you'll have to dial their building number and then the extension number. So that's a 7-digit extension number altogether for anybody that's outside of your facility. Receiving calls, very straightforward. Whenever you receive a call, your phone will ring. You'll be able to answer by picking up the handset. You could also answer by using either the speakerphone or the headset, or you could press the answer button on there. By default, if you hit that answer button on the screen, it will move the call to speakerphone. Now you have a few other options on here as well. Hitting the reject button will move the call over to voicemail instantly. And then the ignore button will move the call, or it'll allow the call to ring naturally until it goes to voicemail, but it will remove the sound, the ringing from your phone. So it's kind of two different functions. Reject instantly moves it over to voicemail. Ignore just kind of mutes the ringing, but then allows the call to ring to voicemail naturally. When you receive a second call there, same, the screen will also pop up with the same options as before here, so you could answer it, reject it, or ignore it. You'll also notice on there that you'll hear a beeping on your phone to let you know that there's a second call coming through. You could answer it, and as soon as you answer it, the first call is automatically placed on hold. So you don't have to press the hold button for any of these particular functions here. You could just answer that second call, and then that call will be placed, and the first call will be placed on hold. You could also, from there, go back to that first call there by pressing that first button, and then the second call will be placed on hold, and then you can kind of manage the calls from there. All right, so let's talk about transferring calls. There's 3 different types of transfer calls that you're going to be running into here. And if you've been with the Mitel system, you're pretty familiar with these here. So the first one is a warm or consultative transfer. This is the ability to, if you're requested to speak to somebody, or that the caller wants to speak to somebody, you could contact that somebody, let them know that there's somebody calling for them there. If they want to take the call, you could just simply allow that transfer to happen. The blind transfer, also sometimes known as the cold transfer, allows you to send the call over to that person, and if they're available, they will take the call. If they're not available, the call will go to voicemail. And then the last one here, transfer to voicemail, transfers the call over to voicemail instantly without ringing the phone. All of these functions here can be done by either pressing the transfer hard key that you see on the screen, or there's going to be a transfer soft key that would be on there when you have a call active. So that warm transfer, so all you'd have to do is hit that, first you'd hit the transfer button. Remember, the call is going to be placed on hold while you're doing that. You would put in the extension number or the phone number, and once you do that, you would press send or wait just a few seconds, and then it will move that call, or then it'll call that destination. Now, once you're speaking to that person there, so let's say somebody calls me and they want to talk to Monica, then this process would allow me to speak with Monica for a moment there, and I could say, hey, I have X, Y, and Z on the line. Do you want to take that call? She would say yes, and then once she does, I could hit either the transfer soft key or that transfer hard key again and move the call over, and then you're basically done. The blind transfer, kind of the same idea, but just a few different steps here. So you would hit that transfer button just like before here to start off with, but this time you will hit the blind soft key that's on the phone there. So you'll see the blind soft key, you'll hit that once, and then once you hit that, you would put in the extension number or the phone number, and then hit send or just wait a couple seconds, and it'll move that call over, and then you're done. That's basically the blind transfer. So you're just going to put in the basically transfer, blind, extension number, send. Now, sending the call to somebody's voicemail is actually the same steps, except you're going to put in a *0 before the extension number. So in this case here, transfer blind *0, and then I dial 4007 for the extension number, and then hit send. Once I hit send, the call gets moved over to their voicemail without ringing the phone. All right, so let's move on to 3-way calls here, or sometimes it's called a conference call. So the step for this is pretty easy there. You just have to remember how they're just kind of a couple of pieces to this here. So the first one is making sure that you have 2 active calls. That could easily be done by just calling the first person, then basically putting them on a hold and calling the second person. And then once you have that second person on the line, you're going to hit that more soft key. So then you'll be able to see the join button. You'll hit the join button, and then the call is conferenced together. And that's basically it. You'll see that the call is, it'll be notated that it is now a conference call. From there, you could, have that 3-way conversation. You could actually hang up the call, and they could still have their conversation there. This may not be used for everybody, but I want to make sure that everybody knows how to access it there, just because it's handy. All right, so checking the voicemail here. So we touched on this just a little bit here, but I want to kind of go back into it. That voicemail button. So for those of you that have the VVX 350, you're going to have that voicemail button. You're going to press it, and it'll just give a chime and ask you for your password, your PIN, your voicemail PIN, and then from there, you'll be able to put that in and then access your voicemail. Now, for those of you that have the VVX 250, like I said, there's going to be a soft key, or you could dial *86 to access that voicemail, and you'll go through the same process there. You'll be asked to input your PIN, you'll input your PIN, and then you'll be in the voicemail section. Now, if you need to check your voicemail from another phone, such as, let's say, your neighboring phone, or let's say another building, and you want to call into your phone, you'll dial your extension number. Keep in mind, since you're in a different building, you may have to dial your 7-digit extension number. So the building number and your extension number. But once you dial that, and once you hear that first ring, you can hit the star key, and then you'll be brought into the voicemail menu where you'll be prompted to input your voicemail PIN, and then you'll be in. Now, from a cell phone, or let's say you're out of the building there, you could actually call your dedicated phone number. So if you have your own exclusive phone number, and most of you should, you could call that phone number, and that will bring you into the Ring Central system there. And then you'll hear the same thing before. You'll hear that ring, you'll hit the star key, and then once you hit the star key, you'll be able to access your voicemail. All right. Now, just to keep in mind here, and if there's anything that you missed, or if you require some additional details or information or documentation, you could access the JCPS website, jcps.me/RCT. Going to that particular site will have all the training document and information that you need to get yourself up and running there. This is also good for anybody that missed the training and needs a copy of this particular video here. If you run into any actual issues with the phones or the application, or if you have any questions pertaining to that there, you could also go to jcps.me/help. That's your ticket system. That'll allow you to submit tickets to receive additional assistance or alterations to your phone. And then this other website here, service.ringcentral.com, is a good website to go to check your voicemails if you don't have access to your phones or anything of that sort there. You could actually access that website, and then you'll be able to check your voicemails, do any alterations to your system as need be there. All right. So let us go ahead and dive into the actual phone that we have here. So this is just a quick demonstration on what it would look like to use the phone. So as we see on here, we talked about the line keys and all the different functions and features. To receive a phone call, and I'm just going to go ahead and simulate that right now here. So when you receive a phone call here, the phone will ring, and then from there, you just easily just pick it up, and you'll see on there that you have that transfer button that's right there. You also have that transfer button that's right there as well. So once I press that transfer button, all right, call is going to be placed on hold. I'm just going to have to put in an extension number here, so I could just put in, or I could dial a phone number. So that right now we're doing a consultative transfer here. All right, so it automatically calls out to that phone number there. And then we're going to go ahead and answer that call. Good, good, good. Now, once that call is being answered there, I could actually, from there, just hit that transfer button, and then it sends the call on its way there. Because I had that conversation with that person, said, hey, do you want to take that call or not? And they said yes. I just hit that transfer to complete that. Now, let's simulate that same scenario here, but this time we're going to do a blind transfer. So we're just going to go ahead and answer that call right there. And then we're going to hit that transfer button. So we're going to hit transfer, and we're going to hit that blind button. It's going to hit blind, and now we could put in a phone number that we want, or you'll see on here any phone number that I have dialed thus far. I could actually just select that and then hit send, and then it'll transfer the call over there. All right. Monica, any questions so far?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yep, not a problem there. Now, one thing also to notate on here is the two soft keys I wanted to point out was the forward and the voicemail function on here. So the forward button right here is if I press that, if you want to forward your calls that would be going to this phone, you're going to select that always option on there, and then you'll put in a phone number. Now, I already have that placed in there, but you would input a phone number or an extension number, and then I would hit enable. Now, what this will do is that anytime somebody calls my phone, or my phone number in particular, those calls would be forwarded over to that other destination. You'll see that in the upper right-hand corner where it says that phone number where it's being forwarded to. Keep in mind that if you have the application up and running, it will still ring, but the physical phone itself there is forwarding the call to the appropriate destination. In order to turn that off, you could just hit that forward option again, select always enable, and then hit the disable button. And you'll see that your keys that are on there, I'm just going to move my mouse around so you can see that there, now look normal, and we don't have that forward option on the screen anymore. Now, since this is a VVX 250, you'll notice on here there's not an actual or a hard key for that voicemail button. So we can hit that more, and you'll see that you have a voicemail button right there for you. So you could access the voicemail that way. You also have on here a DND or a do not disturb button. If I give that a press, what that will do is that anytime somebody calls this phone now, the phone will not ring and it'll move the call over to the next destination. So if that means that the call is going to go to voicemail, then the call will go to voicemail. Or depending on your call routing for your account, it may be moving over to the next available user on your team. In order to turn it off there, you can just hit that DND again, and it goes back to normal. All right. So that will be it for the physical phone itself there. I want to dive into the application. I want to show everybody what that looks like here. So we're going to go ahead and give that a close. And we're going to look at this application in place here. So as you see this here, and we're actually going to run this back just a little bit. I'm going to sign out here. I want to show you what it looks like from the beginning. So when you download this application, you're going to hit that sign in here when you run the application. It's going to ask you for a few details. Now, most of you are going to do the single sign-on, and it will go through the process of how to bring you in. The single sign-on, most of you are going to be familiar with that, may require some multi-layer authentication. As for me, because I am a demo user, I'm just going to put in my information here. And then it will bring me into the system as you see it here. Just give that a moment to load. There we go. All right, so from here, go ahead and close that out. This is just an upgrade that has happened recently. So we're going to talk about some of the different things that you see on here. So first of all, to make a regular call, because most of you are going to be using this for just some of the basic functionalities here. So we're going to talk about those basics first. So in order to make a phone call out, you could just hit that dial pad right over here. And then you'll see basically, your information here to make that phone call. You could enter a name, a phone number, anything of that sort there. You could also do the exact same thing by going to this phone section right here. And then under the make a call, it'll do a little pop out. So you could go ahead and make a call from here. Now, once you input a phone number, it'll start filling it in for you there. Or I could just fill it out all the way. And then if I make that phone call out from here, I'm going to go ahead and hit that enter there. It's going to attempt to make that phone call out as you see it. So as you can see from there, we're making that phone call. And the call is active. Now you have the same options as you did on the physical phone itself there. So I have the mute option as you see it. I also have a keypad right in here. So I could actually hit that and it allows me to input keys. This is especially useful if you're calling remotely and you need to access some kind of automated service. So you could just press 1 to go into the accounts or billing, things of that sort there. Audio allows you to adjust the volume of your call here. So that's where you can make that adjustment. Add is basically the three-way calling conversation here. So if I hit add, I could input a name or number and then have the call be handled in that way, shape, or fashion there. Video allows you to initiate calls for anybody that's using the application as well here. So if I'm calling somebody that is also using the application, I could press video and that would initiate a video call. Now under the more option here, if I press that there, you have the other additional options in place. Hold places the call on hold. Transfer is basically the ability to transfer. Now, one thing I do want to point out and keep in mind that even though I press transfer, the call is still active. So this one doesn't automatically place the call on hold. So during this time, even while I'm having this conversation, the person on the other end can hear what I'm saying. So just bear that in mind. You may want to mute the call or place the call on hold or just kind of not babble too much while you're kind of going through this process here. So just bear that in mind. Now I could easily just put in a phone number here, and then I have the options as before. I could ask first or transfer. You'll also notice that, oops, let me go ahead and go back into transfer here. If I put in an extension number, or if I just type in somebody's name, and then I give that a click, I have the to voicemail option on here as well. So I have that in place. But let's go ahead and just do a phone number, just so we can see what that looks like here. So if I do just a straight transfer, that's a cold or blind transfer here. If I do the ask first, this is the consultative or warm transfer. So if I give that a press, it's going to call that number here. And at this point, that first call is automatically placed on hold there. All right, so once I answer that call, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. There we go. You'll see on here that I have the ability to simply press that green button to transfer the call. I can also hop back and forth between the two calls as such like that there and talk to the initial person and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and transfer you over now, and then hit that green button. And then the call is now transferred. So that's how that works there. Let me show you what it looks like if I actually call that phone or if somebody sends me a call here, just so you can see what that looks like. So you see that on there. I'm going to go ahead and answer that call. Now, the other options that we show on here as well is the record, allows you to record that conversation. You also have the park option and the flip option. Park allows you to move the call to a parking zone, and that parking zone, anybody else could call in and access it. Now, if I was to press that right now, it would actually show a green screen at the very top, and I'll show you what that looks like here. I'm going to hit that park option. And it'll show a green little option on here that says the call's parked at star 801. So what that means is that anybody could pick up their phone and hit star 801 and pick up that call. I could even from here as well, I could go to here, star 801, give that a jingle, and now I have that call back. So that's what that is for there. Now, if I hit that flip function here, this allows me to move the call to another device. So if I was to, let's say, I'm on the move and I need to move the call to my cell phone, I could easily just move it over to my cell phone here. Now, keep in mind, these numbers that you see on here are pre-configured in here before I got into this. So that's why you see them there. If you just first started off your application, you may not have these in here. I'll show you how to get these placed in here shortly. But I could just move it over to like one of these devices and then be on the go. And just keep in mind also though, if I move it to, let's say, my cell phone here, all right, it's gonna move the call over to my cell phone. It's gonna just take a moment. But I have to be sure to hang up the phone call here. So once I hang that up, it moves the call over to the other two destinations and you're good to go. So just bear that in mind. All right. All right. Looking good so far. Monica, any questions?
No, I do not. Thank you.
All right, good, good, good. There's a lot of stuff to cover, so I just want to make sure that everything is looking good on your behalf there, even though you're a trainer as well. So this is almost like a simulation of a simulation, but you know, a little bit of audience work never hurts.
You're doing great. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, no problem, no problem. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to messages here. So this message component, think of this like what you have for Teams. So you can see on here the different messages that I already have in place. And these, like I said, this is just like Teams. You may or may not need or want to use this here, but I just wanted to kind of talk to this point on what it is for and what it is used for here. So you could just select a person that I already have in place, or I could just find a person in here. So I could put in Justin, or he's already in there already, but I could select him again or select a different person here and then send a message. And that'll send them a message. Now, keep in mind, this message that I'm sending here is based on the application. So if they download the application, then they'll be able to see that message. But if they don't download the application, they'll never see that message there. So just keep that in mind while we're doing this. I'm actually going to skip over to texting here. So this is SMS. So this is texting on here. So when you send a text to somebody from this, it'll be sent from your Ring Central phone number. And then you could, you know, input the phone number you want and then send it on its way. Now, keep in mind, if you're unsure what your actual Ring Central phone number is, go ahead and go to the upper right-hand corner. Click on that and click View Profile, and you will see your phone number right there. Now, this phone number may be slightly different than what your actual phone number may be. Some of you may have a 485 phone number, and this here does not match that. And that is mainly because we're in the process of moving those phone numbers over. Your phone number is not lost, and that main phone number, that 485 number, will still go to you. It's just for the time being, you also have a temporary number that's visible as well. So if I call that 485 number, it will ring to this number that you see here. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's move on to faxing. All right. So I don't have any faxing on here, just so you know here, but any faxes that you receive will be received on here from that same phone number. So if you tell somebody, please send your call to that phone number, the faxes will be received here. You could also send out faxes from the same place as well. So I could go into here and I could put in a phone number and then I could pick my cover page depending on what I want there. There's a bunch of different sets. The little eyeball there allows you to see a preview of that component, and as you see there, that's like that. So we'll go ahead and just minimize that. So you can select that there, and then you can input your note and then attach your fax message there, whether it's a Word, PDF, whatever you'd like for it to be. And then you can set it to be sent out now, or you can have it to be sent out later here and schedule that. Okay. Now the video component. This here allows you to set up a meeting using the Ring Central application. There is not a set standard on which one you want to use. I understand that you have Teams as well as Zoom to allow you to host your meetings. This one is also a third option you could use as well, so you could have that in place. You could instantly start a meeting. You could also schedule a meeting in here and kind of plot out the time on when this is going to happen. So that's how this all works here. We're not going to dive too much into the details of this one here. It's going to be very similar to what you already have in place, but it allows you to basically handle a capacity of, for most of you, 100 to 200 users here. All right. And then, of course, you have that join option in here. So if you know somebody's link or ID, you could put that in here, and then it'll allow you to join that meeting. You could also, for those particular meetings, record them. So any recordings you have will show up in here as you see them as they are right now. You could also share these recordings here. So even though these are my recordings, I could hit that share button, and then I could input a name and share them with that person there. So I could just hit add, and they would they would see that that video as well. All right, let's go to contacts here. So under contacts, you'll see all the individuals that are part of the Ring Central system in here. So anybody that is in the Ring Central system, whether they have a phone or the application of that sort, will be in here. You could also sign in with your Windows credentials to add in your personal contacts, or any of your Outlook contacts could be tied into here as well. So that's what this is for here. All right. So let us go ahead and move on to the other piece here, your settings. There's a few other options on here you're going to see that you're not going to be using. Some of you may not even be able to see some of these, such as company settings, or workspace or analytics may not show up on your device. They're not for use at the moment, but they're just kind of there. Workspace allows you to do more of project planning, giving certain users tasks to do. So think of this more like a CRM component here, where analytics allows you to go through call statistics there. Most of you aren't going to be seeing that, but that's what that is for. But for the rest of you here, you're going to be going into settings. And this is where we could do some adjustments here. So that first one here is customize tab, allows you to move your icons over on the left-hand side. So I could say, hey, I'm not going to be using faxes. I'm going to move it down over here. Or I don't need to use the video option. I can move that down here too. And you see on there that it's being adjusted. They're not lost, they're under the more option. Notifications and sounds allows you to set it up where if you receive a call that there's a pop-up. If you don't need any of that there, you could toggle that off. Same thing with missed calls and voicemails. These are basically the equivalent of your Outlook pop-ups when you receive an email there. Moving further down, you also have the different sounds that can be associated on when you receive a call. And even further down here, these are going to be notifications for any direct messages you receive. So any let's say that message component here, this is messages right there. If somebody sends you a message, this could send you a notification through email that you received a message here. So if you don't have the application on, this is another way to kind of let you know that you received that message. Moving further down, we have audio sources. So this is going to be where your microphone and your speaker are going to be in junction here. So your headset should be under these categories here. So I'm using the Jabra Engage 75, so I should make sure that that is selected by default. Same thing with the speaker. This other component here called the ringer source, this is the device that would ring if you receive a phone call. So if you have the headset on all the time and you receive a call, then this, you'll hear it on the headset. But some of you may be setting down your headset and you may be walking away. So you may want to adjust your ringer to be maybe your computer speakers, or maybe you want to set it to all audio sources. So your laptop will ring, your headset will ring to let you know you have an incoming call here. Totally up to you on how you want to configure that. Over on headset support, if you have a Jabra headset or Plantronics headset, and you may notice that the headset also has like a button on the side there where you can press it to answer a call. In order to use that feature, you would have to toggle this headset control on and then download the interaction or interactive application that ties into this application to the Jabra headset. Now keep in mind that this is just, even if you have this off, you can still answer the call with the headset. You would just have to use your mouse to click on the answer button. In opposed to having it toggled on, I could actually tap my headset button to answer the call. So that's kind of the difference between the two there. Moving on to themes. This is just the look and feel of the actual application on here. So you could change it to just a few different colors. You could also change it to a dark setting there, so it's a little bit easier on the eyes. So totally up to you on how you want to have that configured there. Messages, this allows you to see how many messages you see on the application itself there. under the video option. This will give you the same kind of meeting options or the meeting options you need to configure your future meetings here. It's a lot of meetings in that meetings talk that I just said, but just keep that in mind. This is what this is for here. You could configure it so you have a waiting room, you could have passwords, you could have it where the video is turned off. There's a lot of different configurations you could do on this one here. Feel free to hop in there and kind of tinker with it as need be. Now the phone option. This is going to be the main part that we're going to be diving into here. So in here, there's a few different things that we're going to be talking about. We're not going to talk about all of this here because some of these you don't need to use right off the bat. The first part here is caller ID. So you could change this to be whatever you want it to be when you make a phone call out. So you can have it set up to be calling out from the main number. You can have it being set out to call from your direct number here. So there's just a different options that you could use on here. And you can see that there's just quite a few numbers that you could do. But direct number is right on the top, so I can select that. And now any calls that I make by default are this number. Now, if I go to dial pad, I could actually change it from here as well, but this changes just that particular call. This is the permanent or the default functionality here. All right, let's move further down. We're going to talk about extension settings last here. Okay, so as I'm moving further down, there's a section on here called call handling. If I hit the edit button, it's going to just take a moment to load here. You're going to see on here just a few options on how the call rings into your devices. So if I have this set where I call, let's say somebody calls my number, this is basically what's going to happen here. In order, it's going to ring my app and then my phone here. Now I have this set for 0 rings. Now this is a Ring Central configuration where if you have it set to 0 rings, the application will still show that the call is ringing through. It's not going to stop ringing. It's just for at 0 seconds, now it's going to move over to Polycom. So this is kind of like a synchronized ringing setup here. So once this is set, this will still ring the same amount of times as your Polycom phone, your physical phone there. And then because I don't have any of these options toggled on the right-hand side, it'll just move over to voicemail. Now I could easily toggle this on, and what would happen now is that it would ring these two first, and then after, the 20 seconds, which is usually about 4 rings there, it will move on to my cell phone. And then if my cell phone answers, then it answers. But if it doesn't answer, then it will move over to my voicemail. So you can have this set up so it actually, instead of going to maybe like a cell phone number, you can have it go to another user. So you can kind of adjust that as need be by pressing add phone, selecting custom, and then inputting a phone number and inputting a name in there. And you can even adjust the amount of rings it rings for that individual. Moving further down the line, you could even change what the call does. So if the call is missed, does it go to voicemail? You could have it set that way there. You could also have it just play a message and disconnect. You could even have it forward to another extension. So this seems like what we have already up here, but what this will do is that if it forwards over to another extension, in this particular setup, it will also go to the voicemail of that destination as well here. And opposed to up here, if it rings the cell phone and then it misses, then it will go to my own voicemail here. So this here is kind of the difference between the two on that behalf. So just kind of bear that in mind. You could customize that to how you want it to be. If we have it set on voicemail, we could go to set voicemail greeting, give that a press here. And then you could adjust your voicemail greeting as need be. You have a default greeting on here. We could also go to custom, and then we could hit record, and then we could choose how to record that message. So I could have it call a cell phone number. I could also call or use my microphone. Or if I have a recording already set, I could have that pulled from here and placed on there. This is also a place where you could adjust your PIN. So if you don't know your voicemail PIN, or if you're just starting this off here, this is one way of doing that there. All right. And then, of course, once you're all done, you can hit save and then move on through. Same thing with this right here. All right. Any questions so far?
No, no questions.
Doing good over there, Monica? All right, good, good, good. All right, so there's this last section here. We're going to dive into this one here while we still have time. It's called extension settings. Now, some of you, and I'm pointing this out because some of you may not use the application at all there. Keep in mind that once you receive the physical phones, you are not obligated to use the actual application. The application is just a choice on how you want to answer phone calls here. And for those of you that are already using the application and you just received a physical phone, that also doesn't mean that you have to use the physical phone either. If you have the application and you're good with the application, by all means, keep on using it there. This project is just to accommodate everybody so everybody has the option between the two on how they want to take those calls. All right, so going to extension settings will actually open up the web browser here. I'm actually going to open up a separate web browser here. So I'm just going to minimize that for a moment. If you hit extension settings, it'll open up service.ringcentral.com and it'll take you into this website here. All right, so for those of you that are just using the phone and you're not using the actual application, you're going to have to, or you're going to want to go into this website just for like the first couple of times to make adjustments to your phone, as well as get your PIN in place here. So for those of you that just have the application, you're going to go to service.ringcentral.com and you're going to log in, putting in your information there. You're going to put in your credentials. Now, most of you, you're going to be doing the single sign-on, but because I am a demo man, I'm going to have to log in this fashion here. And you'll notice on here that I am under the same area. Excuse me. Technically, I would be here. Sorry, I had admin access, so it took me to the admin portal. But this is what you would see as a user. So you'd see your voicemails and all that stuff. From here, we're actually in a different section. We're under settings. So if we go to overview, exact same place as well. So these two ways of accessing it are not different at all here. One, you could access through the application, and that's perfectly fine. So you just hit that, it automatically takes you in, or you could just go to service.ringcentral.com and you get to the same place here. Now, let's talk about that PIN. So if I go to settings here, I could go to user details, and to change my password, my PIN, mind you, this is to access the voicemail, not necessarily the password to access this here. I just hit change password. I'm going to hit yes to proceed. You would put in your current password, the same password you use to access this website. And then from here, you would go to PIN, and then you would put in your PIN number. So this is where you'd put in all the information you need. And then move down, confirm this, and then hit save. Doing so will now have that PIN number in place, and you're basically good to go on that behalf there. It kicks me out because it thinks that I changed like everything else, so that's perfectly normal. That's not a bad thing. But now you have your PIN number in place. Now, since we're back in here, I want to show you one other thing. I'm going to go ahead and go to settings right here. Oops, I'll have to sign in. Caught me. So we'll go ahead and sign in here. We're going to move that back to just the normal settings here, and we're going to go to settings. And let's go into some of these other details that you may want to adjust in here while you are in here. So the first thing I do want to point out is, aside from the password, there's another section called settings and permissions. And there's an area called user hours. So some of you may have a set of working hours where you want to receive calls. You could adjust this where during those certain hours you receive calls, and then anything after or before that fact, you won't receive calls here. So you could adjust that as need be. I want to bear in mind, and this is just a forewarning here, that some of you that may be coming in early or working a little bit late, if you are trying to make or receive calls during those hours outside of the time, obviously they would be going to voicemail. So you may want to kind of adjust accordingly for those of you that stay late or work just a little bit early, so you can receive that calls there. All right, let's go ahead and move just a little bit further down here. So we're going to talk about this area called call forwarding and voicemail. So this is basically where we were at before. So for those of you that are not using the application, this is where you could input the different individuals that may be receiving calls as well. So you can put that in there. You'll also notice that this is slightly different. So instead of putting the full phone number of the coworker, I could actually just hit coworker here, and it'll bring up a menu so I could select the different coworkers I want to have ring into my phone system if somebody calls me here. So if I was to put, let's say, Bonnie in here, I could select Bonnie right there, give that a select, and now Bonnie is part of my ring group there. I could change this so she receives a call first, second, however we want to play that out there. And then I could even set this up instead of in order, I could have it set up to ring simultaneously. So all of the phones that are set up, that are toggled on, will ring. So that's how that one works. And you see you have the voicemail options and all those other functions in place, just like in the application. Now moving over to the settings options here, and I just want to point this one out. If you go to settings from the website, and this has to be done from the website, it's not, you can't access this from the application, but you'll see that call flip option. So in the application itself, that when you flip the call, it presented you with those options. Now you could actually do that flip function from the physical, excuse me, from the physical phone as well here. So I could actually hit *2 to flip the call over to my cell phone, or *3 to flip it over to my other cell phone here. And you can move these around accordingly. So now if I was to take my phone and hit *4 while I'm on an active call, it would move over to my second phone, and then I could hang up my physical phone and keep the call on my cell phone there. So that's how you check what the star codes are going to be for the physical phone. All right. That should do it there. There's a lot of options in here, and I do encourage you to explore what the different functions are going to be on here, but we won't spend another 2-3 hours getting into the rest of this here. We just wanted to cover the basics, and that should do it there. Keep in mind that if you have any other questions or concerns, please reach out to your JCPS IT resources, as well as that website that I showed you earlier here, and that should do it. Thank you very much for your guys' time.